Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the weekly Watchlist video sponsored by MarketSmith. And this week, I'm going to highlight some stocks that are resisting the overall general market pullback. We have seen many former leaders that were building up the right size of bases get hit very hard, and also more extended stocks also pull back dramatically. So for instance, we've got Fiverr here, which was moving up the right side of the base towards all-time highs, but then got hit very hard the past 2 weeks. And now it's back below the 200-day and 50-day moving average on some above average volume. And we've also got stocks like Nvidia, which were leading the market, getting hit very hard the past 3 days on increasingly high volume. Definitely a warning sign and an indication that it's best to be cautious at this moment with new buys. So this week, I'm highlighting mostly stocks that are resisting the general market pullback and are showing some form of relative strength. And I'm going to be watching these not only for entries, but also for an indication about where the market's going to go next, whether we completely roll over or if this is just a pause, a consolidation period before continuing on into all-time highs. So to start things off, let's take a look at ASAN. And looking at the chart, you can see it had a strong move from the stage 2 cup breakout. It's holding above the 21 EMA and declining on below average volume, all good signs. But I do want to see it stay within this flag and just kind of go sideways as the overall market continues to pull back. And maybe when the overall market resumes the uptrend, then we're going to see a definitive move upwards through these highs. And that's when you want to capitalize on an entry. So that is ASAN. Great sales growth the most recent few quarters. Not the greatest estimates, but you've got an increasing trend in fund ownership, although no high quality funds just yet. Moving on, we've got Crowdstrike, which is a stage 3 base, so a little bit later stage. At this moment, it is below the pivot at 251.28, but you've got fantastic growth in terms of earnings, sales, margins, great estimates as well for this year and the next, increasing fund ownership, and one high quality fund as well. And as for the chart, I do want to see it stay above this level, this upside reversal. And I do like how this decline is on below average volume, but I do want to see it stay close to this pivot as the overall market is pulling back. Next up, we've got Dash, a stock trying to move up the right side of its institutional due diligence phase. And overall, you've got great sales growth the most recent 4 quarters. Estimate revisions are up, increasing fund ownership, and one high quality fund in there as well. And it has pulled back from around 185 or so back down to the 160s, but it is on very low volume. So there's not too much sign of huge distribution from institutions. And it has pulled back to the confluence with this pivot around 167.23. So what I'm looking for is some consolidation, maybe some inside days, and then a push upwards and move back towards this pivot. And that high is at 185.85. And then ideally it starts to move back towards all-time highs. So that is Dash. Moving on, we've got DDOG forming a longer term base here. And this is a base count reset because this undercut this low right here. So this is a stage 1 base now. Overall, you've got nice sales growth the most recent 4 quarters, nice earnings growth the 3 quarters prior to the most recent one, and estimate revisions are up, and the EPS projections for 2022 are quite good, up 88%. Overall, you've got a nice trend in fund ownership and 3 high quality funds as well. And as for chart, this still looks like a normal pullback within the handle. We've got a standard pivot of 110.24. So I'm looking for a push up off the 21 EMA on above average volume, maybe an early entry there. And once again, this pullback is on below average volume. Moving on, we've got a recent IPO, DOCS, great earnings, sales, margins, the most recent 3 quarters, no real estimates just yet. And you've got 6 funds in here in the system at this point. Overall, it's really resisted the market decline the most recent 3 days and just took out a short-term resistance point on this Friday. So overall, I'm not really looking for an entry at this point, but I like how it's acting, and I'm watching this one for an indication about how the overall market is performing. Moving on, we've got DocuSign, also another stock near a handle and pulling back to a prior resistance level and finding support there. Great earnings, sales, margins, estimates, fund ownership, quality fund ownership as well. And I really like how it acted on Thursday, increasing on higher volume than this pullback, and some fall through as well on Friday. Definitely good action. I don't like the downside reversal bar on this day, but it is holding up pretty close to that all-time high. Moving on, we've got DOMO, another stock within a high handle here near the pivot. and this is a stage 3 consolidation, so a little bit later stage, but overall not really explosive sales growth, but pretty consistent, near 20%. And you've got estimate revisions up, you've got an increase in fund ownership, and one high quality fund in this stock as well. Now we did see 2 days of higher distribution within this pullback, but some decent action on Friday and a nice move off the 21 EMA. Moving on, we've got GNRC, Generac, and overall fantastic earnings sales margins the most recent 4 quarters. Great estimates for this year and the next, although the estimate revisions are down, unfortunately. But you've got an increase in fund ownership and a whole bunch of high quality funds in there as well. Looking at the chart, it's moved up from a stage 4 consolidation, so definitely later stage, but it's moved up quite explosively. And some of the days within this pullback are on above average volume, but overall this is quite a strong stock from this breakout. Moving on, we've got MTCH, Match Group, and you can see decent sales growth the most recent 4 quarters, margins strong as well. Estimates are good for this year and the next, and estimate revisions are up. That's always a good sign. And you've got a nice increase in fund ownership and a whole bunch of high quality funds investing into the stock as well. And it is within this stage 2 consolidation at this point, pulling back to the 160 level and the 21 EMA. I like that confluence. Good upside reversal a few weeks ago. Also nice upside reversal on this Thursday, and then inside day to end down the week on Friday. So potentially actionable through these highs and these pivots, as well as the 167.46 pivot. And then of course, you've got the all-time high breakout at 174.68. Moving on, we've got net pulling back on below average volume from this stage 1 consolidation. Nice sales growth the past 4 quarters. Not really any estimate info just yet, but you got a nice increase in fund ownership and 3 high quality funds investing into the stock as well. And I don't like the downside reversals on this day and this day, but it is finding support near the 21 EMA as well as the low of the big upside reversal day. Next up, we've got TMO, which is kind of a long-term leader. If you take a look at the monthly chart, very steady, not really a young stock, but definitely a kind of slower moving stock that you could add to your portfolio to balance out those high-flying IPOs. But overall, great earnings, sales margins, the most recent 4 quarters. Estimates aren't super strong, but estimate revisions for next year are up. And you've got an increase in fund ownership and 3 high-quality funds investing into the stock as well. And overall, it is in a longer-term base here under 532.57, and it is within a kind of shorter-term stage 1 consolidation with a standard pivot of 526.59, forming a little bit of a short-term handle here under that level and a 2-2 reversal on Friday. I don't like how the RS rating is only a 54, but I think that's expected given this longer-term base that's had the past 6 months or so. Moving on, we've got Zip, another recent IPO. Great earnings sales margins the most recent few quarters. Great estimates for 2022. Not really any fund information just yet. We've got 19 funds in the system and no high quality funds just yet. Overall, very erratic action near this pivot, but this pullback is on pretty low volume compared to the recent volume surges, and it's holding in there above the 21 EMA and just below the standard base pivot of the IPO base at 24.83. So I'm watching to see how this acts to get a sense of the institutional risk appetite. And I do like how it's holding above the 21 EMA and pulling back on reasonably low volume at this point. Lastly, we've got Zscaler, another cybersecurity company, forming a stage 4 cup here. So definitely later stage, unfortunately, but you've got nice earnings, sales margins, the most recent few quarters, great estimates for this year and some fall through next year as well. A nice increase in fund ownership and 4 high quality funds investing into this stock. And overall, the pullback is on below average volume, and I like how it's finding support right near the 21 EMA and just below this prior level of resistance. So overall, that is my list of stocks within constructive patterns that are showing some form of relative strength at this point. And let me know down below kind of one stock you're watching showing these same type of characteristics. And overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks.